2, 1, now!
I'm good, I'm a need, I'm a die, 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 I'm a need, I'm a die. I'm good, I'm a need, I'm a die, I'm a need.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into another episode of the Heel Brothers podcast. It would seem that I've lost my brother, and somehow, some way, seems like he's got something going on from there. But unfortunately, I am not in my normal setup as I normally am. It would seem that for some reason something's going on my internet once again. You know, the same problems that I had a couple of weeks ago. They have reared their ugly head somehow, and now for some odd reason, having to do this from my phone. So I'm trying to keep an eye on everything as much as absolute possible. Alan, are you with me? I see you're kind of having some issues there. You there, bud?
I'm here.
Hey.
I'm not sure what happened.
I see.
Hello?
There you are.
Hey guys.
Hey, how's it going, man?
We're
Hey,
here.
ooh, there we go. There we
I'm
go.
not sure what
Alrighty.
happened. I went to the kitchen to get some water and came back and my computer was on a completely different screen. And I
Yeah.
had to come back back through the link.
Well, at least
But,
we're here.
back you guys up some. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm having to try this on a different setup. I don't know what's going on with my actual setup. Internet, I'll get that fixed. But
I don't know.
isn't
You
it
see that nice
fitting?
25 came in record jersey.
Yeah, that's
The
good.
stream's
I
a
like
mess and North Carolina is a mess. Yeah.
that. I was actually getting ready to say that. Isn't it fitting at how crappy that this production and quality is, and how fitting it is that North Carolina is once again in a situation where they have let the fan base down once again. Let's kind of start with everything. And Alan, I'm going to have to refer to you a lot because I do not have stats in front of me. Normally, I'm able to keep that up on my phone as I'm sitting next to my computer. So I'm going to have to refer to you to a lot of this stuff. But North Carolina took a trip down to Atlanta this past weekend to take on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Come out starting out correct. I mean, they come out and start off just like I thought that they would, fast, quick, and in a hurry, scoring touchdowns, getting defensive stops, and then everything just seemingly stopped there. They were up, I think, 21-7, I believe, at one point in time in that first quarter. Got into the second, and things started really going downhill for the Tar Heels. They go in halftime, I think 28-24 was the score at halftime. Had a great third quarter where they ended up, I think, at the end of the third quarter, it was 35-24, 11-point lead. Then Georgia Tech goes on in the fourth quarter to score 22 more points. 46-42 is your end score. North Carolina giving up another one back-to-back weeks. Virginia last week, who coincidentally about knocked off Miami down there in Miami this past weekend, which I was heavily rooting for. Especially if North Carolina was going to get back on track. But the Tar Heels let down everybody once again. Defense doubles down on their performance from Virginia, not allowing 200 yards rushing, but allowing 300 yards rushing on the Tar Heels. Yeah. Alan, I'm just going to refer to you. What did you see in this game? There's a lot to be said about this week, but I'm just going to refer quick thoughts on the game this past weekend.
The defense is what I thought they were the entire time. I don't know. Maybe the first 6 weeks was the outlier, and I don't know. It just seems like the defense is doing exactly what they did all last season. Begging Drake to come save them in the final minutes. Georgia Tech hadn't scored more than 38 points all season, and they scored essentially 42 in 2 quarters because they didn't score in the first.
I thought they scored once in the first.
Well, they didn't. I'm not quite sure. Well, they did most of their damage They went for 200 some odd yards passing in the second and almost 300 some odd yards rushing in the fourth. And they accumulated their 500 so yards in 2 quarters. They essentially beat North Carolina in 2 quarters.
Yep. And North Carolina dominated the other 2. That's the crazy part about it. North Carolina absolutely dominated in the other 2.
I keep hearing this. North Carolina dominated the third quarter. The defense played 6 plays. That's not domination. That's the offense playing keep away.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the offense didn't come away with 7 points during that third quarter. That's the only problem. And I thought North Carolina did very well in the first quarter. I thought they'd come out.
The first quarter was fine.
Touchdown. Yeah, I thought they'd come out, got the touchdown, and scored, kept them off the field, scored again. Everything seemingly was rolling the right way. And when I watched it, I said, all right, this is what I expected, because I, going into this game, expected North Carolina to say, all right, Virginia is a one-off. That's not North Carolina football. That's not the tone that we set this year. Let's go out here. Let's go handle our business and get back home. And when because I didn't get to catch but the first quarter and the back half of the fourth. And when I turned that on and I started watching in the first, I said, all right, this is the team I expected. We're good. Everything's good here. Well, then I kind of keep an eye on the score because I was busy. Just doing stuff. Enjoying my weekend, right? Busy. Having a good time.
Georgia Tech scored 24 points in the second and 22 points in the fourth. They were shut out in the first and third quarters.
There you go.
Georgia Tech only needed 2 quarters to beat UNC.
Mm-hmm.
It was 14-0 after 1.
They look great.
North Carolina went up 21-7, and then it was downhill.
And there was some. I see where there was like, oh well, there was some calls on the refs, and I understand, especially the one on. I think everybody points to Diego Pounds, where North Carolina really did have a chance to go up 3 scores, and maybe this game is different if that happens. But outside of that, you still had 3 quarters of football. You played 2 of them. You tell me you couldn't have played half of one? And, maybe, honestly, I think North Carolina I think Drake was coming to save the day. North Carolina was marching down the field until Tez Walker unfortunately took that hit, which did hospitalize him. He is fine. He is okay. I do not expect to see him this week at all against Campbell. I honestly don't think there's any need for him. I think they could use some time getting, Doc Chapman, who ended up having a great game for the Tar Heels, catching balls finally and, kind of getting over some problems that he had. Hopefully he can carry that into this week. I do expect him to get some solid playing time this week. And as you go into your last 3 games. But As the Dust Settles is the name of this podcast. Now that the dust has settled, Alan, let me ask you, and we kind of alluded to this in the short that you started us off with earlier this morning, but where does the UNC football program sit right now?
6-2. That's where they sit. 6-2. It's just another day in the life of UNC football. To me, you can't. What Dabo said when expectations outweigh appreciation. So I mean, we're better now than we were before Matt got here.
Agreed.
So I mean, I guess you need to appreciate instead of expectate. But
let me ask you a question like this. Is it fair to appreciate that, but also set the expectations and hold the expectations that the coaching staff has set? Can we not do that?
I mean, you can, but coaches have to coach and players have to play. Okay, so you can put the blame on the offensive coordinator for Virginia. Sure, okay. I don't necessarily think that you can put the blame on Georgia Tech on the coaches. I think maybe Gene Chizik could have called, instead of running nickel in the fourth, he could have played some, he could have brought a little more pressure to stop the run. Because I believe the stat said Georgia Tech ran 24 plays in the fourth quarter.
Something like that.
24
I know they were
plays
scoring left, right, and center.
24 plays in the fourth quarter, right? Right.
Something like that, yeah.
And feel this wonderful airtime.
Well, I'll basically give you my thoughts and opinions of where I think this team sits right now. Currently, you're 6-2 right now with 2 really bad losses. Well, I'm not going to say Georgia Tech's a really bad loss. Georgia Tech seems to be a sneaky team, and I honestly think that given a couple of years, now that Brent Keys now has the keys to that program full time, he can get his recruits in, he can get everything. If they can get a solid defense going over there and, lock up quarterbacks, they've got great wide receivers. They need a running back. But you get them just those two things, a decent running back and some true D linemen, some real nasty D linemen. I think Georgia Tech could actually be a problem in the future for the ACC. And I think they just continue to prove that they're right now a team that you've got to watch out for. Miami, they got beat by Georgia Tech. North Carolina rolled up. They got beat. They've got a really good system over there. It's kind of reminiscent to me of the way Duke is now. That really big-time threat at the quarterback position, a guy that can run, who can also throw the football we saw. Now, he does have a little bit of an issue. You get some pressure on him, he will turn the ball over on him. So that's one thing. But North Carolina sits right now in a cannot lose situation. And I mean that. You've got 4 games left. We're getting ready to talk about Campbell right here in just a few minutes. You've got Duke at home. You're on the road to Clemson, a bad Clemson team, it seems, this year. Well, honestly, I'm not even going to say a bad Clemson team. I think it's a Clemson team that seemingly just can't stop getting in its own way. And then you've got NC State, who's seemingly starting to find themselves. They're 5-3 themselves. NC State ain't a slouch. Early in the year, all right, maybe so. But now they're really turning themselves into something over there. Duke ain't going nowhere. They're a solid team. Now, I know they kind of got exposed a little bit against Louisville. That's one thing. But I look at this team right now and this program. Mac, the coaching staff, and the players set the precedent. The expectations was 9 isn't enough. You heard that all last season. 9 isn't enough. After last season, after everything that happened, we're just one drive away against Oregon to one stop from winning against Oregon. We're a caught touchdown pass by Josh Downs to beating Georgia Tech. You're just kicking a field goal away from beating NC State. I mean, obviously you can't say anything about the ACC championship because you just got your ass whipped in that one. That's pretty much all that is. But we're so close. We're so close. We're so close. Okay, if you're that close, and I think we can honestly say this team is better than last year's team. You can't tell me with the additions and the subtractions that this team isn't better. Better coaching staff, better, having the analysts in there. There's some people in the room. Everybody's a year older. They're more mature. Something keeps happening. Last week against Virginia, I thought it was a bad idea to continuously. I mean, you kind of had a little of a debate about this, about the whole "don't eat the poison cheese." Don't eat the poison cheese. I don't like that message myself personally. I don't like stuff like that, and I felt like it tainted everything. And
I even heard Dabo mention rat poison to his team on his radio show on Monday night. He said the part of it. So it's just not Mac Brown that's out there preaching rat poison, poisonous cheese. I guarantee you, every coach says, "Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype." Unless you're number 1 Georgia, don't believe the hype. Unless you're Alabama, don't believe the hype.
You see what's going on with Clemson. You see what's going on with Clemson right now. And
don't believe the hype. Clemson believed the hype for far too long.
Well, they could live it. That was the problem. That was the thing. They could live it. They could be hyped all they wanted to. They went out there and they just played smash mouth football and won consistently. 2 national championships. Lost in 2 national title games. I understand that, but or a national championship game and the first round playoff, or the semifinals, I guess you could say. But last week was on the coaches. This week is on the players. And I thought the offense came out and played a great game. I thought Chip Lindsey definitely said, yeah, Amari Hampton, go do your thing. Drake hooking up with receivers left and right. Things just looked really good. Offensive line, got it? They deserve that. They kept Drake clean. They kept him clean. They did a good job playing. What happens? But I get sick and tired of this defensive line. This defensive line's pissing me off. You're Miles Murphy. You know how big you are. You know how much hype you had since you come in. Tamari Fox. You are one of the Fox brothers. You and Tamon were
Tamon Fox. Tamari was his brother.
Are you sure? Well, anyway, one of the freaking Fox brothers. You've been on this team this is his 5th year now? 5th or 6th year?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, you've been on this team for quite a while. What? Travis Shaw, big time 5-star. You're supposed to be the next thing, brother. What's going on with these guys? Why can't they get going? Jabari Ritzy's trying. He's trying his best. Got to give him that. I've wondered the whole time. Why don't you ever see, thunder and lightning on the field together so much? The Amari Gaynor, Kamen Rucker.
You're right. I was wrong. It's tomorrow.
I was about to say I don't think I'm going nuts over here, but yeah, I was wondering, like, ever since Amari Gaynor came to the team, I'm like, why don't we see thunder and lightning on the field too much? Oh, that's right. You can't trust the interior linemen. You can't trust them. You can't trust them to hold up their end of the bargain to where you could put in 2 dynamic players. Like, could you imagine if Kamen and Amari Gaynor were able to wreak havoc together, maybe 5 or 10 more plays a game? Something like that? I think that'd be amazing. If the interior lineman can actually hold up. Des Evans is playing his heart out. He's having a smash mouth season. Put one on one side and one on the other.
He's the other.
I understand.
So if you take out Des,
I know that he's a Jeff.
You got to take out one in order to sub for the other.
Put them both in. They have packages where they've saw it in South Carolina, because heck, South Carolina, heck, you could run it on them all day. There you go, no problem. You did that consistently. They've done it. They've put both in. You can do it if your interior linemen learn how to play football and actually play with some grit and some tenacity and shed a few pounds.
I don't know. I don't know how. What does the interior lineman have to do with Amari Gaynor and Kamon Rucker playing at the same time? I'm not on that same track that you are. Because you're not going to take.
What is the issue that we've had the past 2 weeks? Running the football, right? What have we not been able to really consistently stop since probably the Pittsburgh game? The run. Haven't been able to stop the run that well. You did a good job against Miami. Hot dog. Here we go. But then Virginia rolled.
Did a good job against Syracuse.
You did a good job against Syracuse. Thank God for Cedric Gray and Des Evans and Kamen Rucker again, able to get to the quarterback. Thank God. Thank God. But these past 2 weeks, why can't we do that? Why can't we stop the run? Why is teams just lining up and running it down our throats again? What's going on?
It's just the scheme. It's just they took Appalachian State's game plan, got their fast players on the edge, and just let them get out there and run. So you got to set the edge. Whose problem is that? It's not the interior lineman's fault. You don't set the edge with the interior lineman. You set the edge with Kamen Rucker and Des Evans and your outside linebackers. A la Power Eccles. A la Kamen Rucker.
And then you're letting quarterbacks sit back and drop back and do whatever the heck they want to do. Why can't we get pressure up the gut? Why can't we get pressure in the center? Why is Dez and Kamen having to do everything? Why is Kamen Rucker having to play 80 plays? Why is he having to do that?
Elijah Husky played 80 plays.
Where's Amani Chapman?
Amani Chapman don't play star. He plays corner. He switches.
I
He switches to Taylor
understand.
Holloway.
I understand that, but we're starting to scale back using other players. We're killing ourselves playing. Jesus, we're killing ourselves playing these starters all the time. We can't seem to get any type of consistent play out of your star players outside of Cedric Gray, Power Eccles, Kamen Rucker, and Des Evans this year. Des Evans has had a great year this year. Elijah Huzzy's played great. Marcus Allen's kind of made a name for himself. Tayon Holloway's had some issues, unfortunately, but he's young. He'll get there. But what's going on with this defense?
I don't know. I don't know. They figured out how to run the ball. I can't tell you. I'm not them. I'm not there. Everybody is taking Appalachian State's game plan, throw the ball fast, and get it out to the outside. If you can do that, then you have success against North Carolina. They had 2 runs right up the gut. The QB sneak, where Kamen Rucker tackled the running back in the backfield, and the QB was able to get the ball out of his arms before Kamen Rucker could get him to the ground. So that was pure luck. The second one, I don't know. The 2 tackles got washed, and the middle opened up, and the linebackers wasn't up. The linebackers didn't fill the gap. That's a 70-yard play and a 52-yard run by the quarterback. The rest of it, the second quarter, they threw the ball. What did they do? They threw bubble screens. Bubble screens got blockers out in front, and they ran. What they do in the fourth quarter? They ran the outside zone and just looked for the cutback lanes when either they couldn't set the edge, or there was a cutback lane where one of the interior linemen got washed too far down the line of scrimmage. They're small and they're fast. The average height of Georgia Tech's wide receivers is 6 foot and have Olympic 100-yard times. I'm talking about sub 10 times at 100 yards. That's faster than Tez Walker.
So where's the pressure coming back on the quarterback?
Short area quickness. They're not taking 5-step drops. Where was the pressure out against Appalachian State? Why couldn't we get Appalachian State on the ground? 3 steps and gone. The ball's out in 1.2 seconds. You're not going to get pressure on the quarterback like that. You can't have pressure on the quarterback when they're throwing bubble screens.
They're not doing 3-step drops every single down, Alan. They're not doing 3-step drops every down.
But did you watch the second quarter? You know how many bubble screens they threw to the left side and the right side and the left side? They threw them like 4 or 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
That is not a 5-step drop. That is a wide receiver screen.
Mm-hmm.
That ball is out in 2 seconds or less. They didn't run deep crossing routes like North Carolina runs. You don't see that. You didn't see that out of them. You saw that one play on a play action. And why did that work? Because they was running the ball. They ran the ball 22 times in the fourth quarter out of 24 plays.
All right, so then what needs to change? Because something consistently has been wrong here since Jay Bateman was here. You've had consistent players on the team that's been here all these years that you've had these issues. Different coordinators, same defensive lineman coach. What's got to change? What's got to change?
Technically, if you look at the defense was better under Jay Bateman than it was Gene Chisholm.
So what's got to change?
Not effort.
By?
Well, the effort comes from the players.
So all player? Do you think it's all players, or is it? Because I don't agree. It's effort's got to be pushed through by all players. I think we have a good number of players that are showing some great effort, and some that aren't.
Okay,
that are seemingly just all right, getting pushed around.
It's like what you hear. It's 1/11. 11 players have to do their one thing, If they're out of their gap, that's an open hole. If they take a bad angle, that's 10 extra yards. One of the bubble screens, Gio Biggers took a bad angle. Marcus Allen took a bad angle. Then you do a stunt, and then you get in. Then the stunt you get a stunt, meaning the defensive lineman cross, like how Kamon Rucker came free up the middle and was able to attack the dive. That worked. Unfortunately, there wasn't nobody behind him to account for the quarterback. I'm not in the playbook. I don't know the playbook. Not in the meetings. I don't know who was supposed to account for the quarterback. I would imagine it was either A, a safety, or B, either said or power. Not sure. Had to be one of the two. There's another. If you listen to Kamon Rucker's press conference, it's called a misfit. They have to clean up their misfits. They're not getting in the right gaps, whether it be the defensive lineman coming off a stunt not getting in the right gap, or the linebackers not filling in their gaps behind the lineman, or a safety not coming down and hitting the right gap where he's supposed to be coming up in run coverage. It's one of the 11 players not doing the exact perfect thing. That's why in football in general is the hardest team sport there is, because you have 11 different players that have to do the exact right thing every time, or it can go for a touchdown. And you saw that twice. They broke off a 70-yarder right up the middle and a 52-yarder right up the middle.
I think there needs to be changes in two places. Really, honestly. Defensive line and safety. I like Gio Biggers, but I don't think he's it. I don't. I like him. He has good plays, but I feel like he gets beat or has too many misfits than he should. That's just me. You can question it all you want. I don't care. That's the way I think about it.
Well, they're not going to play him if they not think that he is. If that's not the best they got, they're not going to start him. They're not starting because they like him. They start him because that's the best they got. So that's recruiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I hope they have got that in the.
If that's the best you got, that's the best you got.
I do like the addition of Stick Lane, and I'm glad he's getting some more playing time. I'm very glad of that. I think he is doing a good job. He's finally starting to step in. He was injured to come into the season, but now he's starting to step in.
And he's starting to. He was the one that made the tackle on the fourth down stop.
Right, and I'm glad. That's why I'm glad he's here. And I think I don't know if he has another year eligibility. I think that he does, but I'm not sure. But hopefully he does, because I'd like to see him stick around for a little bit. But also, I wish Will Hardy was in a lot more, but I know he's had some injury issues, and he never seemingly has. He has not seemingly gotten back into form since he got hurt in the offseason and kind of delayed, started a little late. He just doesn't seem like himself. Maybe it might even be next year by the time we see, a full healthy Will Hardy, like we saw last season, towards the end of last season, who played very well, I thought, in my opinion. I just don't understand how this defense consistently keeps getting beat, and how they know legitimately what's going to – I mean, anybody who listened or watched anything Georgia Tech last week, whether it was a radio, podcast, whatever, knew they were going to run the ball like crazy, knew they were going to do that. And you stopped them for 2 quarters, but then you let them go crazy in the fourth. And it was worse, in my opinion, than App State. It was worse. Way worse. I just think it was ridiculous. But what do you think North Carolina needs to do? Is Mack Brown still the coach, in your opinion? Does there need to be some changes? I mean, if there needs to be changes, heck, where do you even begin?
I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on how the year finishes. Like I said, they're never going to fire Mack Brown. Mack Brown is going to have to retire.
Right.
Because Mack Brown garners respect in college football, and respect is what he deserves,
Which
and respect is what he gets. I'm against Mack Brown leaving. the recruiting's up since he's been here. Football is better since he's been here. You haven't seen football as much as I have. Football was not great. 2015 was probably the highlight. But outside, so it's 2023. So then you go from 2015 to 97. That's a long time with bad football. Long time with bad football. So you gave Matt Brown 6 years. In my opinion, give him 6 more. You gotta appreciate what you got. You just because you think North Carolina should be 8-0 or and he's not, that doesn't mean that Mac Brown should be fired. That might be the case with every other football team. He's not getting the job done. He's had 6 years. Let's get him out of here. He's not getting the job done in 3 years. Let's get him out of here. No, that's not how it's going to work in North Carolina. It's not how it's never worked in North Carolina. So
I think what they need to do personally, if there's going to be a change, and honestly, I hate to say it because it saw so much change, but maybe it's true. I think it's time to get a younger guy that's driven, that's hungry, that's got some experience in the college football world to come in and at least bring someone in defensively. I think it's time. And
so you think Chiswick should be kicked out after 2 seasons?
Either Chiswick, but I'm more or less leading to Tim Cross.
Why Tim Cross? Because the players aren't performing. The 2 defensive tackles are performing. Des Evans is having the best year of his college career.
Thank God. And he was questionable for a very long time, and injury does change a lot of things for a person.
Kamen Rucker is one of the best pass rushers in the NCAA this season.
Mm-hmm. I understand that. I get that. But that's
so
it.
How's it
That's
Tim
all you
Cross's
got.
fault? How's it Tim Cross's fault?
Because what has been an area of concern for 5-6 years now, since Max returned, the defensive line.
Defensive line is better this year than it was last year. Better this year than it was 2 years ago.
I'll say this much. It was better, but now out of these past 2 games, I'm not quite sure.
Still better.
That's
how many
good.
sacks they got this season? How many sacks they got this season?
You can fool as many people as you want, but what we're seeing is return to form. Now they've got to make some changes here. They've got to do some differences here. They need to come into Campbell and destroy them. I want 9 sacks against Campbell. Give me something. Give me 4. Give me 5. Give me 6. Give me something. It's Campbell. You got to give me something here. But a big area of concern was at corner. I feel like we're starting to get that resurrected now. You got young guys in there. They're going to make young mistakes. You got a solid player in Huzzy, who's great to have. Thank God he's here. He's making some great plays, and people are scared to throw on him. Tayon Holloway's is coming along. Armani Chapman's been a very good addition. Marcus Allen's played very well. They're young, which means they're just going to get older and get more mature. But something keeps happening on the defensive line, and I cannot figure it out. I don't know why. I understand this is the best that we saw them in 3 years, but it's still giving up 300 yards of, just gave up 300 yards to Georgia Tech and 200 yards to Virginia. And it isn't like the Georgia Tech teams of old and the Virginia teams of old. That was a 1-win Virginia team and a 2-win, or I forget how many, 3 or 4. They had won 3 or 4 games, Georgia Tech. That's kind of still in that rebuilding stage. They're getting there. Like I said, I think they get a few more things in that system. I think they'll be a problem. I really do. I think they'll be really good. But I want to see something different, man, because clearly something ain't clicking. Something gets to some point in time and it just stops clicking. And last week against Virginia, that should have been your one-off. Like, okay, that should not happen again. But then you double down, and this is the path. We saw it last year. Georgia Tech lost that game. What the flip? And then they double down. And then they did it again. And then they show up against Clemson, who was a good team, and then they just destroy you. Just absolutely demolish you.
I wouldn't say Clemson demolished North Carolina in that game. North Carolina was up
42-10, 7-0.
Yeah, no, but see, we were driving, fumbled, pick six. That's not a demolish. I mean, I don't look at it like that. Then we was one goal line stop away from beating Oregon.
Which I give them credit for. I'll say this. North Carolina, when they decide to, plays their heart out. But why are we consistently seeing them not play their heart out? What's going on here? Is it players?
18,
Is it time to just
18 to 20,
age out the
23
players?
years old. 18 to 23-year-olds.
Well, then tell me why Georgia's at the top of the year, but with a potential chance to three-peat this year. Why is Alabama consistently in the playoffs seemingly every single year? Why is Ohio State
have 5 stars
consistent?
at every single position. They have 5 stars at every single position. But they had to get there. Clemson didn't just start this thing overnight. They built themselves up and got a level of consistency going. This is the first year they'll have under 10 wins since 2010. There's a consistency level that was built. Yep.
North Carolina
that started
seemingly
for Georgia and
cannot
Alabama
get
a long time ago.
And Clemson, let's look in the ACC. Clemson, all of a sudden, boom, out of nowhere. And they build it up. Haven't lost as many games as they've lost right now since 2010. 2010.
Mm-hmm. And North Carolina hasn't had back-to-back whatever seasons they're about to have since God knows when. 2015 was North Carolina's best year.
That's great. That's good. I'm glad.
North Carolina went to the Orange Bowl in the COVID season, a la just because Clemson made it to the playoff. If Clemson didn't make it to the playoff, guess what? North Carolina wasn't going to the Orange Bowl.
I know. That's great.
So you've had one successful season since 2015. One.
But what did Mac Brown come back to do, man?
He's trying. You got to have the players. It's all player-based. You can
I believe it. 100%.
What happened to number 6, Oklahoma and Kansas? Who won that game?
100%.
Kansas.
I mean, there's upsets that happen every single day. We can debate this all night. We can literally debate this all night.
The players
but there's got to be a level of consistency. You got to get on them. I don't know what's happening in the press conferences, or in their board meetings that they're having every day with player meetings and everything else. But from what I'm hearing out of press conferences, out of coaches, they're just being too soft. They're buying into the narrative that we're soft. They present themselves as soft. They say, nope, not being soft. But then they still come off that way. And now they were coming off that way, but showing it else different on the field, and now they're back. I'm so sick and tired of it. Excuse me, I'm going to hold them to the standard they set. I'm not holding them to a standard that's way above here. I'm holding them to a standard they set. 10 ain't enough, or 9 ain't enough. All right, guess what, buddy? It starts this week. You got to beat Campbell. You got to beat Duke. You got to go beat Clemson. And you best go on the road to beat NC State. 9 ain't enough. If you went out, you get 10 wins. There you go. If you do that, I shut up. Hey, you did your job. You did. You set expectations, and you lived up to them. But right now, I don't believe they're going to live up to
No, I mean, I'm going to tell you they're not going to live up to them. It's not the coach's fault. The coaches can only say so much. It's coach speak.
I understand that.
They're not going to stand in front of a microphone and rake their players over the coals. That's not what coaches do. What does Dabo say? It is my fault. It is my fault. It is my fault. All you've heard from Dabo this season, this is my fault. All you've heard from Mac Brown, this is my fault. Nick Saban is out of the top. Isn't inside of the top 5. Guess what he's saying? It's my fault.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because Drake May flipped from Alabama to North Carolina. If Drake May was on the Alabama squad, guess where Alabama would be? Number 1 in the country.
Yeah, probably, because they got a good ball club and still have a good quarterback.
So that is the difference in these football teams. One quarterback for Alabama's team can change.
Mm-hmm.
Who did we miss out on that Alabama has? Caleb Downs, best safety in the country.
I really could not stand when I saw him go to Alabama. It hurt my heart. It really did. It really, really did.
I mean,
the
Big Ten, the Ohio States, the Michigan. I mean, even Minnesota, their players might not have been as good as our players, but they are enormous. Enormous. No, ACC don't have enormous. Clemson had enormous when they were in the national championship.
So they got enormous players right now.
And when they lost to LSU, LSU made Clemson look small. If you watch that LSU-Clemson game, LSU was giants compared to Clemson. The SEC, Alabama, their players are huge. They're huge and they're athletic. So you get a Diego Pounds, and you're like, oh, man. And you see what Diego Pounds is doing for North Carolina. Well, guess what? Everybody on Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, every one of their offensive linemen are Diego Pounces. The likes of North Carolinas, the Oklahomas, they're not that big. The Texas, they're not that big. But they have the majority of the 4 and 5 stars, and it's spread out more now because of NIL money.
Yep.
3 years ago, everybody went to Georgia, LSU, Alabama, Auburn, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State some. Why? Because they had the best chance to play for a national title.
But let me ask you a question. Why do people go to schools? What did you just say?
Oh, and
they have a
newsflash,
chance.
North Carolina's academics is not friendly to athletics.
Now, that I agree with. But, a lot of schools like that aren't, and it's kind of unfortunate. I'm not going to lie. But let me ask you a question. Let's say a guy gets an offer from Georgia and North Carolina. Why is he more apt to go to Georgia?
Well, 1, he's playing against better competition. 2, he's going to get more money. Have you've never been to any? I mean, we're talking Georgia Stadium, Alabama Stadium. They're like the size of the Panthers stadiums.
They're huge, I know.
Alabama Stadium holds 100,000, and they fill that thing up against a Tennessee State. Their alumni bases are huge, so they can the money flows like rivers. Well, Rosie, his daughter goes there. He says every building over there is brand new. Why? Because the football money, the revenue from the football team just flows into the university. It's not the university paying for the football team. The football team is literally funding the university. Oh, we need a new library. Well, here you go. Here's a couple million. We don't need it. We're good over here. They sell out 100,000 seat stadium 12 weeks out of the year. Same way with Georgia. They sell it out. Why? Because their universities are big. Their alumni, North Carolina's alumni base is a third, maybe a quarter of the size of Alabama's. So you're already playing from a limited deck of cards. So it's literally David versus Goliath. So you're just hoping for that one magical run that the TCU had. But even TCU has more money than North Carolina.
Well, let's go back before NIL deals, all that stuff. Why would someone pick one of those schools over North Carolina? Why does somebody want to go to North Carolina instead of somewhere else in basketball? The standard was set. The success was there. It doesn't matter. It was set.
Mm-hmm.
Duke sprung up out of nowhere, and now the standard is set. Still, that's relatively new. The standard has been set. And somebody knows I can go there to, one, I can learn how to become a better player, and two, I can play on big stages. I know I've got a shot to get to the championship. I know I got a shot to go make a name for myself.
Exactly.
That's what happened.
That comparing basketball success and football success is different. Basketball is a 5-man. We'll give you 7. 7-man roster.
It's not. You're apples and oranges here. This is what I'm saying. Somebody picks a school originally. Now the NIL thing kind of throws in a little bit of a different idea here. But originally, when somebody picked a school, they said, I know I can go here to, one, become a better player. The standard is set. And I know that when I go there, I have a chance to compete at a high level and go compete for something big. That's the baseline of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina has done that in basketball. They've done that in other sports as well. Field hockey, it seems. It's time for them to do it in football. And they say that's the mission. That's the mission. That's the mission. You got to sell that to the guys that have to help build it. Right. You have to sell that to the guys to help build it. Listen, this is what you're coming. If you're coming here, this is what you're coming here to do. We're going to set a standard here. This is what the expectation is.
But in order to set an expectation, and you're going to have 10 legitimate football players to decide to come to set a new expectation. 10 legitimate in one class. Whereas in basketball, to set the standard, you can have 2. What kind of impact do you think Elliot Cadeau is going to have on this year's team? Just one guy.
I don't think he's going to help them spread the offense a lot.
One guy is going to make an entire world's of difference when it comes to ball movement. What is one offensive lineman going to do for North Carolina? Say we got the best offensive lineman in the country. No. You want to say No, I'm not, because winning breeds winning. But in order to win that's football is the hardest team sport there is, because you have 11 different guys that all have to do their job on a consistent basis. So if you have one guy that is lazy, or maybe one guy not lazy but tries his best, just isn't good enough, he can screw the rest of the defense. Alabama doesn't have those guys. On a bad day, Alabama is still wiping the floor with North Carolina 10 out of 10 times. On a bad day. We'll go 9 of 10. Because, when's the last time Alabama's lost to an unranked team?
They got very close against USF this year.
When's the last time they lost?
I have no idea, dude.
It's because
they set a standard. They set a standard, and the people have come. The people have saw I
They
can go
can
there
walk
and
off
win.
the bus.
Why
and
do
win.
you think? Do you think App State, if App State could just now get some more money, if they could get some more money, do you not think they could probably have a pretty solid football team? The people see App State and they're like, crap, man, this team, shoot, they beat Michigan. They run up there and beat Michigan. They're always hard to play. If they could just get out of the Sun Belt and they could become something in a Power 5 conference, I think App State with that mentality could say, Jesus, man, you never know what that guy might turn into. You just never know what's going to happen there. Oregon,
what did App State
that's
do
never won a
last year?
national championship. Oregon, a team that's never won a national championship, is always up there. Always, because they've set a standard. They might not go win.
They're not going to.
They're always in the top. They're in the top 10, top 5 right now as we speak. That's what they're doing. Now, I got to get off here pretty soon because my phone's actually getting ready to die. We'll finish this up real quick. What do you think, Campbell? I'm getting my battery's at 8%, and I'm far from a plug-in here. Quickly, and we'll continue this conversation again sometime next week. Or actually, maybe we can do it later on in the week. Tell me real quick thoughts on Campbell, and then we're going to get out of here.
Campbell, I don't know. I guess it depends on what UNC wants to do. If they want to come out and win, then they'll win. If they want to come out and make it a game, they'll make it a game. How much effort are you going to see out of the players? That's what it comes down to. You can't. It comes back to North Carolina. You can't coach effort that is on the players. You can coach. You can put them. You can give them the right plays. You can put them in the right scheme. And if you don't want it, if you don't, it's like what Monachino. He's like, if you don't love it, I don't want you on my offensive line. He's like, if you do not love football, you have no business playing this game.
Right.
If you don't want to die, like Baycott said, I would do anything to die for. I would die for this university. If all 11 of your players on defense and all 11 of your players on offense don't feel that way about football, you're not going to be a perennial powerhouse. You're not going to be a national team. You're going to be a flash in the pan. And that's what North Carolina has been the past 2 seasons, a flash in the pan.
Well, it's time for them to go change that narrative right now because it's getting pretty ridiculous that they're not. Anyway, I'm going to hop off here. My phone is literally getting ready to die. I'm going to quickly put in the outro. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being here. And go Hills.
Go Hills.
You don't want none.